y'all, welcome and welcome back. I'm sorry I'm not in the best headspace right now. This is the last video that I'm filming. I usually film all of my videos in one day for the week, and I was on my final one and I got a story sent in to me that really upset me. It put me in a really bad headspace, and I'm honest to God trying not to cry, but we're gonna take that story off and we're gonna redo stories. I have some more picked out, and hopefully they won't be like that. If you're new here, hi, my name is Morgan and my energy is usually much better, but today we're working with what we got. Here we do some spooky things, I tell scary stories, we talk about scary movies, my own scary experiences, and I'd love to have you here. I'm also on Patreon, Instagram, and TikTok. I'll leave all of that below, as well as the email address and more information to send your stories to if you would like for me to share them. But without further ado, let's get right into these stories. This first story comes from England. I decided to finally send my story in, and also something that's been happening recently. I should probably also mention that my Nana is very involved in the supernatural and is able to almost see the future in a way. Premonitions and all that jazz. My mom thinks I may have the same ability passed down because of things that I'd said as a child and recently, but that's a different story. If you'd like to hear it, I can share those. I would love to. I've always been a believer in the paranormal, even when I was young. I loved scary stories. One day I was going to my grandparents' house to sleep over there. I did that a lot of the time, and I packed my usual stuff in my bag and left my room. Well, as I was at the top of my stairs, I saw something on all fours walk into my bedroom. For a second, I didn't think anything of it because I have a dog, and my dog is a Jack Russell, therefore she's quite small. But this thing was big, almost human size, on all fours. That's when I freaked out a little and ran downstairs as fast as I could, almost crying. When I got downstairs, everyone at my kitchen table was looking at me because I had just stomped down the stairs and saw my dog. I knew in that moment that my dog had not crawled into my room, and I started crying. When I explained what I saw, my family laughed at me, and my grandmother went up to my room to check for the monsters, but there was nothing. I cried when I had to go home from my grandparents, and I wouldn't sleep in that room for 2 days because of how terrified I was, but I never saw it again. As well as this, some pretty creepy stuff had been happening recently, and I'm not sure what it is. For context, I'm 15 and home a lot. I live in a pretty old house, so it's not uncommon for it to shake when a train goes by or a creak now and then. But one day I was in my room building my bed, and I invited my friend over to help me. She lives maybe 10 minutes away from me, so she shouldn't have taken long. About 5 minutes after she said she was on her way, I heard my door open and close. Her voice said hey, and then slight movement as if she was taking her shoes off like she usually does. Then for a while, I was making a lot of noise, so she was aware I was upstairs because I hadn't replied to the greeting, and I'm glad I didn't. Quite a lot of time had passed, too long for her to still be taking off her shoes. I got a sinking feeling and didn't get up to check if she was here because something in my gut told me she wasn't. I looked at her location on Snapchat and texted her saying, "Are you downstairs?" And she said, "No, I'm walking through the woods, why?" And her location confirmed that she was still 5 minutes away from my house. When she finally got to my home, exactly what I heard before happened. The door opening and closing, the hey in the same tone, and the slight noise when she was taking her shoes off. Then she came upstairs and I was apparently as white as a ghost and couldn't speak for a while, shocked at what had just happened. I've also been hearing noises that I wouldn't usually hear in this house, like phone notifications, whispers, breathing. Usually this wouldn't bother me because my home's old, but my new phone has never been turned to silent mode and I hear buzzing notifications. The two distinct buzzes, then silence. I thought it was nothing at first, but then I heard it while both my laptop and phone were in my hands and I was using them. Since then, it's gotten worse. I've heard whispers right next to my ear when I'm home alone. Nothing I can make out, just a loud breathe and exhale. And then nothing, and it's very scary and gives me goosebumps. The most recent noise I've been hearing is ticking, and I do not own a clock. There's no audible clock in this house, no alarm clock or anything. The only clock is one downstairs that has been broken since I was very young, yet there's still this ticking. It's not my phone or the clock downstairs, and I assumed it was the boiler until we were decorating, and I found out the boiler does not have anything that could make that noise. I don't understand what I'm hearing. I thought I was going crazy at first, but then I remembered I had bought my friend a clock as a gift, and it ticked for the week I had it. I gave it to my friend, and the ticking stayed, almost as if something was copying it. I'm worried I'm dealing with something mimicking sounds, or if I'm just hearing things due to paranoia. So I would do a cleansing, never hurts to be safe, but try not to feed too much energy into it, and hopefully it's just your mom playing tricks on you. Alright, next story. I love your videos and also your cats. Pete, would you like to say hello? Someone loves you. My girl. Say hello? You're glaring at the camera. This happened back when I was around 6 to 10, and I remember that I woke up from sleep and it was the weekend. Everything in my room was dark except the LED light that I had. I had a feeling of needing to go to the restroom, so I looked over at my door, and I still remember seeing this. What I saw was hunched over, squatting thing that looked humanoid. It had different animal parts, and all I can remember clearly was that it had a turkey thing on its neck, if that's what they have. It stared at me and then ran straight to me. I immediately woke up, and I remember when I woke up, I had a cut on my leg. Ever since then, my parents gave me some protection things. I don't know what it was, and I still remember that day and how horrifying it was to little me. And they actually sent a second story. This one was a little bit more recent. To start off the story, I was 12 or 11, and I can't remember exactly, but I remember that I got a call from my sister asking if I could go to her room and take the straightener out of the wall plug. I told her that I would, and then I hung up the call, and then I went to my father's office that he was connected to my room. I told him to come with me to my sister's room since it was a little late and I had a weird feeling that something wasn't right. He didn't want to come, but he soon said fine and followed me. Weirdly, the straightener was unplugged, which was weird, but I didn't question it. I then flipped the light switch, and that's when I saw it. It was something right in the far back middle of the room. It was on top of a pile of clothes and squatting there. The eyes were white and staring at me. I immediately pretended that I didn't see it and shut the door and followed my dad back to the room. I told my dad and he didn't believe me. My family already knows that I'm spiritual, if that's the word. If you want to hear more stories about my past experiences, I'd be happy to send them. Absolutely. All right, let's get into another one. Okay. Did it scare you, Pyrrha? I want to share something that happened to me back in late 2019. For background, I come from a very spiritual family and have heard of stories that have happened in my family and me as a baby, such as my mom hearing me giggle at something when I wasn't in the room. I've even had my dead dog bark at me from the closet and dreams of running through my grandma's house while something I couldn't see chased me. My dad and aunt always said that my grandmother's home had some weird energy. For what happened in 2019, I moved into my grandmother's home in rural North Carolina. I was 19 and started working a few months beforehand. I lived in my dad's room where he had painted, and one night, what I thought was a dream, my eyes were closed, but then my head started to shake, and I heard a man screaming in my pillow. I remember what he said. He said, "You did this." It was a quick dream, only lasting a minute. I didn't think anything of it, but it happened 2 more times within a few weeks. The last time was a real kicker, though. In the last fit I had, I was dreaming first about a military man's blanket. I dreamt that it was tugged off of my bed, and I went to grab it, but something kept pulling it under my bed. My head in the dream was still on my pillow, and the same head shaking back and forth, and a man screaming happened, but it didn't scare me as much. I woke up to find my blanket almost off of my bed. I leaned over and was about to grab it when a black figure shot out from under my bed. I jumped back, screamed, and turned on my bedroom light. My aunt came to check on me, and when I told her what happened, she made me sleep in the living room. That was the only time that I'd ever seen anything. I've only ever had auditory. I still get some sleep paralysis, like something on my chest, or sometimes it's just me unable to move. But once I had a night terror that my boyfriend had to wake me up from because I wouldn't stop screaming. I will note that every man in my family was in the military, so I don't know if that's important. Thanks for listening. I'm sorry this video is so short. I just know I am not in the best mental headspace right now, and I feel like I'm not doing these stories justice because my energy is deceased. Yeah, so I will see you guys next week, and I'm really sorry to end it on such a sad note, but we're doing our best out here. But I will see you guys next week.